Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and tonight it's time for another live stream. Tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about 360 drones. We're going to talk about the DJI O4 update because we are starting to see a few more cases of people having issues. Oh, double audio, have we? Oh,
okay. If I do that, is that better? Sorry, let's start that again. Hello, tonight we are going to be talking about 360 drones. We are also going to be talking about the DJI O4 update. We're getting more reports of issues, but also we have a bit of a better understanding of what is going on. And specifically, we're going to talk about what you need to do if you have a brand new O4 Pro ear unit. We're also going to be talking about a few other things as they come up in the stream along the way as well. Now, you might be wondering what that is in front of me. And yeah, sorry, this. Yeah, that's the Antigravity A1. Oh no, sorry, you weren't wondering about that. Were you wondering about this? Well, this is something I'm not allowed to talk about. Everyone else seems to be allowed to talk about this, and I'm not allowed to talk about this. A lot of people have started to make videos about this, but I'm not allowed to make a video about this. In fact, I can't even talk about this until we get to the 26th, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. I am this close to flipping my lid over this whole thing. Because frankly, I don't like how this has been done. And whilst I really do appreciate working with brands, and I do appreciate being involved, I don't like being treated like a second-class citizen or being treated like we're not important. And further to that, I don't like the fact that this is going to mean any video I release at this point is probably going to get a third, if not less, of the views it would have had as a result of the way it's being done. And don't get me wrong, people are allowed to market things the way they want to market them, but when you're not told about what's going to happen, and then suddenly you see a load of stuff appear online, and you're saying, wait a minute, what's this about? And then you're told, yo, you can't talk about it. I was like, okay, so if I can't talk about that, we're going to talk about this instead because I can. So we're also going to give you some updates on the Insta360 Antigravity A1 because I can't talk about anything else. Now, this week there has been a bunch of videos released about a product that I'm not allowed to talk about. I'm not even allowed to discuss it. And whilst I would usually sit here and talk about this and promote it, I'm not actually able to. Now, if you haven't seen, these videos are a lot like these. No, it's not that one. God, I know what I've done. We're on the wrong one. One moment. 1 second. That one there. Oh, NVIDIA broadcast is off. There we go. So, these videos are a lot like this. These videos are like this, talking about this. But I can't tell you what they are. I can't mention it, and I can't discuss it. And yeah, so look, you might have seen some videos this week talking about these products, but I don't know what I can do. It's yeah. What I shall do instead is give it to you through the medium of mime. However, what I can talk about is this, the Antigravity A1. Now, there are a few things I want to talk about on this week, because this has had a firmware update, and I did put my video out on it. However, there are a little bit information that you do need to be aware of. So, it does appear to be the case that there is a remote controller coming for this. This is going to be it here. This is going to be apparently the Antigravity A1 remote. That is coming. This is, you know, look, it's not particularly exciting. However, it should be rather interesting. But something else I wanted to share, which I thought was quite cool this week, is Antigravity released a bit of a factory video. And I always like videos like this, and I like it when manufacturers do this. And if you haven't seen, they released a video which gives just a little bit of an overview of the assembly line. And it's always cool to see how this stuff is done, how the technology is put together. I do wish more manufacturers would release videos like this, because it's quite cool to see, you know, the processes that these things go through in manufacturing. And it's not a long video, it's only a short one, but yeah, I watched it and I thought that's quite cool, that's quite interesting. I think what is interesting about the A1 is the fact that Antigravity are doing their own thing. You know, look, I still think it's a great drone. It has its upsides and downsides, and I think when it comes to 360 products, there's a lot of misunderstanding. They are certainly not perfect. However, they have their place, and we are without doubt entering an interesting time when it comes to drones like this. You know, you're probably gonna see a lot more drones like this hit the market. And each person's going to have their own implementation of it. What I will say to you is this. I've used the A1 extensively. It is certainly not a bad product. With the firmware update I talked about this week, the RF system is better. Don't get me wrong. This ain't going to be up there with OcuSync. There's no world where it's going to be up there with OcuSync. Let's not pretend it is. However, what I would warn you is this. Any videos you start to see coming out where people start saying words like, this is the best 360 drone in the world, or this is 10 times better, it has so many more features, basically treat it with complete bullshit. There are absolutely benefits to one drone over another, and one has a better implementation of A and another has a better implementation of B. But there is no great, massive, oh my God, in the world of 360 cameras coming. I think we all know how 360 cameras work, those of us who are getting it. And my big concern with 360 drones is the more accessible they become, the more people might get a bit disappointed with them when you don't fully understand the inherent weaknesses of a 360 camera. But yeah, look, it's nice to see Antigravity is still continuing. As I said, I put my video out this week, which was scheduled to go out. It was scheduled to be released. So that's gone live, and we're just going to have to wait and see around what's around the corner. Now, as I did mention, there are people who have released videos on something else. In fact, there are even people who've released 2 videos on something else. Not 1, but 2 videos. Some people are not allowed to talk about it at all or release any videos. But some people are being allowed to release 1 or 2 videos. Seems fair, doesn't it? However, yeah, I guess that's what happens when you're a preferred special creator. I wonder what you got to do to become special. Anyways, I'll leave that in your head. So, look, that's where we're at. This week, I have been flying the Avata 2 for quite a lot. I wonder why. Why would I be flying the Avata 2? Weird thing to be flying, isn't it? You know, I don't know. Weird. So, that's where we're at. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Ever heard of ABJ Drone Academy, Europe-based Romford, England? Never heard of them. That's a new one on me. Yeah, that's a new one on me. Yeah, we've had quite a lot of good weather this week. We have had quite a bit of good weather this week. Okay, so the next subject is DJI O4. Now, a couple of weeks ago, DJI released an update 404, and I'll just pop it on the screen. Version 01.00.050. Now, what's interesting in this is this update seemed to come before the issues seemed to come. But anyway, it says, fix the black screen issue caused by occasional interruptions of the video signal. Now, this is for the O4 Pro only. Up until the end of 2025, I am not aware of this issue being in existence. And whilst I don't pretend to be the complete oracle of all information, overall, there has not been widespread community issues. We had heard rumours that there were potential problems with the new batch of O4, but it was only rumours. But what we have started to see since this has come out is a number of people posting issues with O4 Pro specifically. Issues like signal loss or issues like what they call rebooting. And what it seems is the issue has lagged the update in the sense of people are only now getting their hands on the ear units and starting to see problems. And as an example, we think this is one of the ear units that is having the problem. If you just see here in the footage, it breaks and it just loses signal completely, yet his OSD continues. There has been a number of people starting to report issues now, and it does seem like there is definitely something going on with new O4 ear units. We also now have evidence that matches the fact that DJI have made a hardware change on the O4 Pro ear unit around Christmas time. A user on my Discord has got one of the brand new O4 Pros 2026 production, and my suspicion from the very start was they've made a memory change, either flash or NAND, and lo and behold, the flash memory, the DDR is the same, but the NAND has changed. In the past, DJI have used SanDisk on all of the O4s. This is the chip used on the O4 Pro, SanDisk, NAND on the O4 Lite and O4 Pro. And the new ear unit is using some different chip from another manufacturer. We've not really been able to identify this at all. The number isn't coming up to anything. I suspect this is some Chinese-made unit. And my suspicion is that DJI have made a hardware change, and that has resulted in some issues. If you remember, this was actually the second update. The first update was released on the 19th of January that said fix some minor bugs. And that update removed the ability to roll back as well. So our belief was this was to support the new hardware. We now have confirmed images stating that there's new hardware. So I would suspect that DJI have changed NAND supplier for the onboard storage, and that is what is causing these issues. So, as it stands today, my advice with O4 is this. If you get a brand new O4 ear unit with 2026 production, make sure you update to the latest firmware. On the box, it will tell you the production age, the model year. It will say month and year. If it is a 2026 model, I would, before even trying to fly it, update to the latest firmware. There is no need that we are currently aware of for older units to upgrade. I am not aware, if you've never had problems up until now, all of the evidence suggests this problem is on the new hardware. The only thing I would say though is this. If you updated an older ear unit to this version 0400, I would upgrade to this 0500. However, if you're on earlier than this 0400, I wouldn't worry about it. And the only reason I'm saying that is what we don't know is that this 0400 didn't introduce an issue. If you are on 0300 or earlier, as far as I'm concerned, there is no issues. I wouldn't even worry about it. However, if you are on 0400 or you have a brand new ear unit, I would bring it up to 05 just to be sure. Just to be clear, we are not aware of any good reason not to upgrade older ear units to this version anyway. So I'm not saying you shouldn't upgrade at all. All I'm saying is there shouldn't be a need to. It is what the wording I will use for this. But yeah, we definitely now have evidence that they have swapped out the hardware. So, and like I said on my Discord, I'm on 0400 and no issues on an older Pro. Yeah, look, I am 95% convinced this is a new hardware issue. However, there has been a few people say I upgraded my old one and I've had problems, but I've not had hard evidence of that fact. My personal belief is this only affects new production, and specifically likely these new NAND flash based units. There's been probably something they got wrong in the build. So that is my suspicion anyway. As for any other changes, we haven't really noticed any others. Someone asked have they done any more on the UFLs. Not really. They look the same as they did before. There's no real changes there. The soldering definitely looks a little better though. But it's how soft the solder is the issue. But yeah, other than that, it basically looks identical. As for what this NAND is, I've put this through GPT, bloody Copilot, and the web, and we cannot identify this. This appears to be something new, probably Chinese based. DJI won't be making their own flash themselves, but this is probably coming out of one of the suppliers in China. I guess the only concern is, here is something interesting I have noticed. If you notice, it's labelled 1-64G, which would imply it's a 64 gig flash. On the normal O4, it's actually only an 8 gig flash. DJI used the larger flash on the O4 Lite. My suspicion is that's a 64 gig flash, and I wonder if they just got something wrong with the spacing. I don't know, and this would be a very interesting question. Does anyone with a new one with this have any more storage space? Have DJI given you some free onboard storage for the DVR? Because if you remember, the O4 Pro only has 4 gig. So DJI on the O4 Pro is keeping 4 gig for you, and 4 gig will be for the local operating system. This appears to suggest it's 64 gig. Because when you look at this on FPV Wiki on the Lite, if you look at the Lite, it's a 32 gig NAND. Of which DJI give you about 23, I think, or 24. Something like that once formatted. So it would imply that's a 64. Yeah, the 4 gig. What DJI did with the Pro was basically toss in 4 gig for good measure and basically said use an SD card. But yeah, it does appear that this could be 64 gig, but that doesn't mean they're giving you 64 gig. It would be cool if DJI did increase the spec. We should just check. DJI haven't updated their website. Let's just check. Four gig, see, still 4 gig on the Pro. Suspect they've bought these for the O5 Pro. No, it's just memory shortage. Don't overread into this. There is no O5 Pro. There is no O5. O5 doesn't exist. It's just you can't get fucking memory. That's what this is. And DJI have gone, fucking hell. It's either one of two things. Fucking hell, we can't get memory. Or fucking hell, I'm not paying that for that. That's what it will be. It will be as simple as that. There's no O5. O5 doesn't exist. So I wouldn't even expect to see O5 in the next 18 months at this stage, because DJI have hit a bit of a wall now. There's really nothing they can do anymore. Who needs more than 1080p live feed? 2.7K is pointless. You know, it's just NAND storage. I suspect the issue is, fuck me, I'm not paying that much for it. That's, I suspect, what's actually happened. You just... And if you look at this, what is interesting is DJI was already using Chinese-based DDR, so CXMT. DJI was already pretty being held up. Is that? Oh, this ain't Ukraine, Gary. This is the AI world. Fucking Ukraine's got nothing on what's happening in the AI world. Ukraine is like a pallet's worth versus an entire shipment compared to the AI world. Everything is being swallowed. This is all about AI. And look, being a SanDisk component, which I always thought was a bit weird. Why they went with SanDisk. But yes, CX. And how long before they have problems with this? What's the input voltage of the Beta FPV P1? It should be listed on their website. All to make dancing cat videos. Yes. So we do. I don't know the spec off the top of my head, but it's on the Beta FPV website. If you just search P1, they should give the spec. There it is. Full spec of the unit. Beta FPV say 5 volts, so that's the only voltage we can go with. There is, you know, any testing beyond that is dodgy ground. You can only go by what Beta FPV is saying. So, but yeah, look, that's the score with O4. It really is as simple as that. Remember, this update is for O4 Pro only. There has been no update for the O4 standard ear unit. There's been no updates for the goggles. That'll come in about 10-15 days, but that doesn't affect O4. Okay. Hope everyone is well this week. I did manage to do some flying. Unfortunately, I can't show you any footage about it. Why can the P1 only run on 5 volt and run 200 milliwatt, but Cadex Ascent run off 9 volt and only 100 milliwatt? That is entirely down to the design of the VTX. The input voltage has nothing to do with the RF power. The input voltage is 0 to do with it. It's all to do with the design of the VTX, the power amplifier choice, and the design. It's 100 milliwatts because that's the RF power amplifier they've put on it. It's a bit like saying, why does one car do maximum speed of 80 mile an hour and another car do a maximum speed of 130? Because they're designed differently, and that's the same with the ear units. Cadex designed their ear unit to do 100 milliwatts. It's entirely a design choice Cadex made. Nothing else. The hardware choice is entirely down to them. As for why 100 milliwatts, no idea. It's a stupid number in my eyes, but yeah. It's Cadex's design choice. Weather is sunny and 86 here. Very nice. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is just a bit of an update on the HDZero battery box. And I want to highlight this because I did a review on this battery box, and I always highlight the things if there is issues. So Ryan over at HDZero has put out this message that they want to proactively inform customers about the reliability issue that may occur with the DC power cable on the HDZero battery case. The current battery case uses a very flexible silicon cable, which I can confirm it does, and we'll grab mine in a minute. While this feels nice to use, the downside is that silicon cables are not very resilient and constant bending and tugging. Over time, the repeated bending can cause the internal conductors in the cable to break. Not everyone will experience this. It depends on how much bending and tension the cables see during use, but frequent flyers may eventually encounter this. We are working on a way to improve on an improved replacement cable. A new cable will be PVC instead of silicon, so it's going to be thicker, stiffer, but more resilient to internal conductor fatigue, which can make it better. We expect these replacement cables to be available in 3 to 4 weeks once they arrive. The replacement kit will include PVC DC cable, replacement sticker for resealing the battery case. In the meantime, they've released an STL of a file to offer some strain relief with some stickies. So what you do is 3D print it, paste it around and put it there. Let me just grab my goggles. Mine have had a fair amount of use. I wouldn't say extensive, but a fair amount of use. But yeah, I think the issue here is, and if we just go in and zoom and have a look, is the fact that there's no strain relief at this point here. That appears to be the issue. Oh. Is my... Yeah, are we on or off? Let's just check. No, that one. Yeah. That there's no strain relief there. Mine is fine. It is a very soft silicon cable, but they want you to pay postage, someone has just said. That would be disappointing if true. I guess the question is this. If it happens, you should be provided the cable for free. If you want a proactive replacement in advance, then I do maybe get that they want to charge postage. However, it would be great if they just handled this. What's interesting is when I squeeze this cable, I can actually feel it's hollow with separate conductors inside. I wonder if that was part of the issue as well. It isn't a solid cable. I can squeeze it here. But yeah, look, that's the issue there. I didn't really pick up on that in the review, but now I've looked at it, I do see why that's an issue. Now that I've looked at that, I can see it. And I can see why that's an issue. Yeah, a bit disappointed, actually. I'll pay a bit more attention on that. The problem is you don't really know the quality of the cable either and the type of cables. Look, what I will say is this. Over the years, I've had a lot of experience with cables in products, and they will fail. They will fail in the weirdest way as well at times. In a way you wouldn't expect. Yeah. Yeah, that just happens. I could put a bit of heat shrink. Yeah, I think your problem is going to be getting down and into it. That's going to be the bigger problem, is how you get down and into there. Yeah. You're going to have to remove this sticker. I'm going to do a tear down on mine to have a look. Have an understanding of what's going on. But look, they've pre-announced it. I do, look, if yours fails, they should absolutely be paying everything. Okay, that's my absolute stand. It doesn't matter who the business is. If the part fails, they should be paying for the part and the postage to you. Or you can get it fixed. Where these things do get a bit murky is it is not always the manufacturer's responsibility to pay for a part to be sent back for repair. I like to see it, but it isn't always the case that that happens. It isn't always the case that that happens. If you want a proactive replacement, I can understand, as long as it's not a safety issue, I will add. So, if there is any possibility this cable could cause a fire or a short of the battery, then that needs to be provided for your charge. If that isn't possible, then a proactive replacement I'd like to have seen freely posted, but I do get it, if you get my meaning. I don't know. If I remember, the battery has short circuit protection. If I remember, the battery itself has short circuit protection. The battery case. If we just go to the HDZero website and let's just check what they've said in their spec. I am sure they said it has short reverse polarity protection. Is there short circuit protection? That might okay. Let's see how it pans out. Yeah, I know there's one way to find out, but I don't fancy doing it here. Let's just say yeah. I might have a look non-destructively in the sense of let's have a look at the circuit. So, okay, that's that. So, look, that's the situation. We will monitor it from here. Question. How is Ukraine using signal amplifier on DJI Goggles 3? I guess they're just putting the amplifiers into the UFLs. Well, they're not UFLs, they're IPX4s, I think they are off the top of my head. Yeah. There are lots of two-way single amplifiers that people have been using on DJI. I'm guessing they've just torn the goggles down and put them on the IPX4 connectors. It's that simple. There's lots you can do if you rip it apart. Look, there are signal amplifiers out there for DJI systems. They have been for ages. Look, these things aren't particularly good. DJI Signal Booster. There are boards like this that have existed for DJI's gear for a very long time. This isn't even new. This has been around a long time where you get these. They're not designed for DJI. They're dual frequency 4-watt power amplifier boards. So they're designed to boost the signal to 4 watts. So you basically connect your antenna input through and out. These have been around for a long time. They are usually incredibly unreliable from my experience. The installation is key. But as you see there, that you know, they have been around for some time. So things like this all exist, have existed. And you can see they've got the power amplification circuit, they've got the power supply circuit, you've got your input, you've got your output. Yeah. Yeah, look, I'm not sure on these units if they offer duplex. You got to remember, you can get round this slightly because the DJI goggles will receive on 2 of the antennas anyway. So sometimes you're getting around it with that. Is this one duplex? Let's have a look. Some of these are because they're designed for Wi-Fi. Basically, they're designed for Wi-Fi. Yeah, you can see it has transmitter and receiver LEDs. So it tells you the mode it's in. Yeah, so there, look, yeah, so that one will swap between the modes. So look, these things have been around for a long time. They're not particularly new. They're not even particularly expensive. They're just highly unreliable in my experience. They tend to fail fairly quickly. But there's lots of like, these have been around for a long time for things like Wi-Fi. These things are fucking bullshit, is what those things are. But No Limit Drones, NLD were selling kits as well. There you go. NLD have custom kits that they sell. I don't know if they're in stock. But yeah, NLD have far more custom kits available on these. And they even do it by model. You can choose your model. You can choose your power output up to 3.5 watts. And you can even choose... The NLD ones are a lot more customized. So for instance, you can choose the RF power input. So it knows what power to accept on the input. So you can say, I want it to support FCC or I want it to support CE. But yeah, these, and you can see here an example. If you look at the signal path, you've got voltage regulation, memory. Looks like a flash chip, that. You can see your filtering through the PA. And then there's a back channel unit there. So yeah, look, these things are available, have been around for some time. Yeah, not particularly new or shocking. Just catching up on the chat a moment. Let's just have a look. Shout out, I finally bought a 3D printer. Well done. Congrats. Did you buy a Bamboo? They're really good printers. Really good printers. Really good. They're really, really good. Really good. You should consider one. Really good. Have I said how good that is? Just reading the chat. A1 is a good printer. There has been problems with the A1, but the new production should be fine. There has been problems with a it's basically an NTC in the power supply cooking itself, but they have resolved it in later production. There's a lot of hoo-ha about it. I don't have an A1, so I've not had it. I have the A1 Mini, which I think is a phenomenal printer. P1S you can't buy new now, so it's a P2S or an A1. The A1 is a very, very good printer. A very, very good printer. So the A1 Mini is phenomenal. I think if you don't need the bed size, just get yourself an A1 Mini. Save the money. The A1 Mini is incredibly cheap. The A1 Mini is incredibly cheap. You know, so yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's madness. Yeah, it is madness. Okay, so that's that. Let me just check. No, I don't have any super chats to check in on. Let me just make sure I haven't missed anything. HDZero, but no, I've actually covered all the main subjects I had tonight. Yeah, so it's a bit of a quiet period in FPV at the moment. Obviously, there's a lot of excitement around this, you know, the drone I can talk about. So there is obviously a lot of excitement about drones like this and what you can do. When it comes to standard FPV, supply is getting better. You're seeing DJI Goggles 3 are appearing in the US. O4 Pro is definitely becoming more available. That is for sure. It is certainly not as scarce as it was, and that's probably why we're starting to see the issues appear that we were seeing. But again, we think it's with the new firmware. I am in the process. There's a bunch of videos I've been doing on the channel just so people understand. There's going to be a whole new series on O4 coming, a bunch of videos on O4 that I sort of did for O3, but I didn't do them on O4, and I'm going back and doing them all again. The first will go live tomorrow is using the DJI RC. So there's a lot of people confused. Channel allocation, frequency allocation, and things like that. That is all due, so hopefully that'll probably be in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I do need to get on with my review of this, the T15 Pro. I haven't even started it yet. I haven't even begun the review of this radio yet. I'll be honest, this was meant to have come weeks and weeks earlier, and it got delayed, and it's got held up behind a number of other reviews, including things I can't talk about. So I'm going to start the review on this probably next week onwards. It's a heavy radio, I know that. But yeah, look, I do want to do the review on it. Jumper were a bit slow getting the radio out to me. They held it back for a period. I think they were a bit short of stock, and then they pushed it out. So they have sent it. So hopefully I'll be able to just finally get to a review on that. It's been an interesting time for radios. You know, there's been a lot of radios out there. We're also seeing some stuff on this like Hello Radio brand. I don't know how I feel about them. Did I show it last week? Can anyone remember? I can't remember if I discussed this last week. Or I can't remember, did I discuss it on Discord or did I discuss it? I think we discussed it. I think we did, because we couldn't find it to buy, could we? Which is this Hello Radio V12 CNC Max. I'm 99% we discussed this radio last week, which is this one here, for those who think. There's definitely some interesting radios out there. Yeah, that's the thing. Someone was talking about a charger, and you've actually reminded me something on batteries. Someone was saying that they got a new, where is it? I've lost it, and I don't know, the Arthwoods UK1. So let's just have a look at what that is. Which is the spot welder. That is incredibly cheap. Like, insanely cheap. Intrigued at that price. Can it really be that good for that price? Has it got capacitor backups built in? At that money, it's gotta be worth a look. That is seriously cheap. Seriously cheap. There are some videos on it. This looks really cheap. Yeah, I saw the Hawkeye video today as well, funny enough. I'd like to see a teardown of one of these to see... Look up the K-Weld knockoff. Anyone torn it down? I'd like to see what's inside. Videos. I find it hard to believe. Oh. No, that's the UF2. Double pulse. I find it hard to believe it can beat the K-Weld. Let's have a look. But it isn't that small, mind. So anyone torn this down? Sorry, I'm looking. I'm going to have to order one of these in. Hi, Stu. I doubt it. I'll address that in a sec. I'd love to, but I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to have a look at that. We'll definitely have to have a look at that. For those who don't know as well, Fogstar in the UK, if we just go on my Discord and the batteries, lithium-ion building, I did post this. Fogstar have decided that they're no longer going to be selling 18650s or 21700s, which is a bit of a shame for anyone who's using Fogstar in the UK. So you're now going to be using Cell Source and a few others. But yeah, bit of a shame that Fogstar. I got a bunch of mine through Fogstar. One of the guys on my Discord has gone all out on batteries. Nearlex. He went flat out. Look up the K-Weld knockoff. What am I searching for? I don't know how I would find the knockoff. Ah, is it this one? I'm guessing. Didn't take me long to find it. I'm guessing it's that, is it? Is that the knockoff? I'm guessing. That looks a lot like it. 99 gears spot welder. Yeah, these look similar, don't they? Have you tried the K-Weld? Now, but I can't remember if you have. Yeah, look, these are not going to be the same quality as the K-Weld. The K-Weld's good, but it's just a little clunky. Yeah, those leads aren't going to last 10 seconds. No, I agree. They, we'll have to have a look at this one. I'd like to see a teardown. I would love to see a teardown of the Alcurve UK1. Has anyone taken it apart? Because if they haven't, I'll do it. Aha! Found one. Here we go. So, front mount PCB. I like the custom display. That is cool. So, are there caps in there? No. So, it's just got a big lithium-ion pack. Do you know what my concern with that already is? How long before that pack starts to puff is my concern. And what really worries me, here's something else that worries me. You won't know. Because notice this design. Look how thick the case is compared to the thickness of the batteries, and then there's just a bit of foam on top. So if this pack starts to swell, you won't have any idea in that case, because it ain't going to be popping the case open. So they're using two big cells, basically, which are what? 2,500 milliamp hour, 25 watt hour. Yeah, it'll probably be okay for short-term use. I'm just concerned about what those cells will do over time. So instead of using caps, they're using a lithium-ion battery, which in essence is acting as a capacitor. Is what it's doing in essence. You're using the battery. Output current 1380 amps max. You're basically shorting those batteries. Not sure I'm happy with that. But there's a load of cheap ones doing that anyway. Yeah. Yeah, someone said there's a temp sensor. It does look like it. It's how long those cells will hold up, because you are putting them under incredible stress. That is the problem. Because what you are doing... See, all these things do is short the battery against the probes. That's all it's doing. So you're shorting it to weld. So you get a huge amount of current, and it does it for the period of time. Split second, 1, 2, 3, etc. So all you're doing is shorting the battery. The safest method is big capacitor banks. I can understand why this seems so good, because you're shorting the cells. I do wonder over time how you know, how they will hold up. See the transistors there. So you got your FETs, which they're shorting against. Yeah, look, they're pretty basic things. You could absolutely mod in some big caps, yeah. But they are expensive in themselves. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't the only one to do this kind of thing. Many of these lower end, cheaper ones just short a battery. You know, K-Weld will even say using a 4S battery on theirs. You know, but I can tell you now, they do swell. I swelled a pack here on the bench using K-Weld. I used a 4S pack and swelled the shit out of it very quickly. It is surprising how long, how it doesn't take long to short out. Yeah, it's. But look, it doesn't look shocking. Yes, I saw Ross's capacitor video. I think we've seen everything we need to see on that. Yes, I did watch Ross's capacitor video. I'm coming from these things from a different standpoint. So, look, nothing he said was particularly shocking to me. I can't remember. If I remember, his comments were basically use good quality capacitors and, if possible, use low ESRs, especially on bigger voltages. If I remember the outtake of the whole thing. Use a quality capacitor that has decent legs, and where the voltages are higher, use low ESR. I don't think that's particularly shocking. Rubicons don't use. Yeah, but he's talking about, the reason he's talking about the branding is predominantly the resistance in the conductors and the legs, because some of these brands are using steel, some of them are using aluminium legs, some of them are using copper clad aluminium. You get in copper coated steel. In the end, the worst thing that's going to happen is the capacitor is going to melt off. There's nothing particularly shocking in it. Here's the problem with a video like that is 99% of the capacitors people are using are what comes with their flight controller build already. If you buy a Speedy Bee, they're tossing a cap in. If most ESC and flight controller kits now include a capacitor. There isn't a performance benefit really to be had here. This is about, you know, this is about. So the Speedy Bee caps supplied in the stacks, for instance, are not recommended. I'm not sure this is such a big problem you need to worry about, is what I'll say. Some things are just not worth worrying about. Have I built a Mojito yet? No, I haven't. I was waiting to order one, but I haven't. I haven't spoke to Trappy in a while, actually. I did see something on Facebook as well, actually. Let me just find this team. I did see a hint of something. Well, it's not a hint. We know it's coming. But someone had posted this. It's official? Ah, it was Trappy. So Trappy... Ah, no, sorry. I thought he was posting a version 3. I think there is a version 3 coming at some point. I thought he was saying the Tango 3 was coming, but I read it wrong. 2 weeks. Okay, so really, there is not that much to discuss this week. Other than that, that is pretty much where we're at in the news of FPV at the moment. We're in a bit of a lull period. There's not a lot going on. Everyone's coming back from Chinese New Year. Everyone's been out of the businesses for a bit. Trappy has said a few times, I think there's probably going to be a Tango 3, but I haven't heard when. I had heard whispers there might be updates coming to the Mojito, but I haven't heard it. I haven't seen anything. It hasn't been wing weather here yet. It's been very windy. Very windy. I was flying along the beach with the Avata360 this week. And to give you an idea of how windy it was... it was so windy, the craft spent most of its time this gives you an idea of how windy it was. That's me flying straight forward, and that's the angle of the aircraft due to the wind. So that does give you an idea of how windy it was. Let's have a look. That was landing. Probably this one then. This will give you an idea of the wind. It doesn't look particularly windy, but trust me, it is. This was a rather dark day. It's the first time I'd flown the Avata360 for a little bit, this. Yeah, you'll start to see the bank angle just to fly forward. It's like, yeah, it's a little bit blowy, to say the least. I was just doing some long runs up the beach. Just to have a look what it might look like. Don't know why I'd want to compare it to something, but... And this was in FPV mode, I think it was. And then... But yeah, you can see the angle look. And in fact, it was blowing me up the beach. So, yeah, the weather was... There is how windy it is there. Just look at that. To fly straight, that was the bank angle needed. It was a little bit blowy, to say the least. But yeah, I was just doing test runs. Sometimes you've got to do repeatable runs to be able to compare things. Do you know, it's got a good camera, the Avata360. It really does. Yeah, that's the downside to the Avata360, is having to spend the money on that controller. You are right. It's okay. Yeah, you ain't flipping in that. It was... What I was looking for was repeatable flights. Just to do a comparison. But yeah, look at that angle. Just to fly straight. At times you just go, yeah, it's a little bit windy. Is Avata360 the same camera as the O4 Pro? Yes. Same camera and same image processing. basically identical. Do I think the firmware quirks are worked out on the Avata 2? There really wasn't many quirks on the Avata 2. The Avata 2 came out strong from its launch. It was a great little aircraft, the Avata 2. There's really no issues. I can't remember many firmware quirks with it. It's been one of the most solid products that DJI has released in a very long time. It's yeah, it holds up well, the Avata 2. It really does. But yeah. Right, guys, if you've got any questions, now's the time to put them in the chat. Stu, I'd love to, but I don't think I'd be doing Australia this year. I don't think I'd be able to. I'd love to, that's for sure. Looks to be cooked over 30 degrees. Yeah, it just shows you how windy it was. I always thought the footage looked a little bit better than the O4 Pro. It should be identical. There's no technical reason the Avata 2 should look any different to the O4 Pro. From a hardware perspective, it is literally the same camera and the same image processing. It is identical across the board. Yeah, so there should be no good reason you see differences. What we don't know is what processing is going to be used in anything new. Remember, in DJI's aircraft, they tend to use their own chips. In their ground-based cameras, like this, they have been using Qualcomm. What we haven't seen is DJI use Qualcomm in their aircraft-based. So, just as an example, this has the same chip umbrella for its X5 and this drone. Antigravity and Avata360 are using the same hardware. They've literally built in the X5. Whereas DJI in the past have, in their ground-based camera, used, now using Qualcomm, and in their air-based camera using their own chipset. We're just going to have to wait and see. Right. So, as I'm not allowed to talk about anything else, I'm going to leave this one here. I want to thank you for spending some time with me tonight. There'll be a video going live tomorrow. It is a little quieter at the moment. I promise you, some exciting things are coming. Bear with it. There is things around the corner. Some very long videos coming up. Look after yourself. Stay safe. And we will be back same time, same place next week. And I will speak to you soon.